now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Give the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
Greetings, good afternoon, and welcome to March. Right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Welcome aboard. If you're watching, look to the right of your screen. It is Darren Goldwater. To the left is me, Jamie, and we're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, protected by Mcfadden Pest Control, and we have so much to get to today. We've got 3 guests. We've got a busy schedule. Can you turn my headset down just a tad there?
Of course I can do that.
I feel like my ears are about to blow. There we go.
There we
go. A little bit better. 3 guests, a full boat, and we hope that you'll stick around throughout the afternoon. 843-321-8893 is our phone number and our text line. You can also send us a message on Twitter across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. A slam-packed weekend of football, baseball, basketball, and we're going to talk about all that leading off here in just a few minutes with Skylar Meade, the pitching coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Carolina wins the series against Clemson. No, they did not sweep because the third game has not been played. A sweep is when the entire series is over. But sure, you can say they swept the weekend. They certainly have won the series. So Skylar's going to look back at it for us. We're utilizing him once again here on short notice, and we're certainly happy he's going to be joining our program as always. Wes Mitchell at 12:30. Got some recruiting to get to with Carolina football. We'll talk about some hoops with him certainly as well. And we got Derek Scott. Derek had a good weekend. He called Gamecock baseball's victory yesterday. He called Carolina basketball's victory on Saturday, and he is going to pop in today and tell us what he saw from the booth from both venues.
The question is, while the baseball series is not technically a sweep, did Derek have a sweep? Because if Derek had a sweep, does he then have to dance with a broom when he's on our show? That was the bet.
I know. He told me no dancing today. He said, I got to wait until May because I don't want to jinx it, which I agree with that.
I respect the decision.
Yeah.
But did he have a sweep?
Yeah.
Can he bring out the broom for the Derek Scott sweep? Because it was a heck of a weekend for Derek Scott.
I don't know the answer. We'll have to see at 1:30 when he jumps in with us. But he might have a broom. He might not. But I know that he's not going to do the dance because he, like he said, Game 3 comes up in May.
I can respect that.
And he said, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not jinxing it here in March
because the whole team will blame him if he does.
Yeah. You don't want to do that. So we'll see. Certainly, but it is a full vote. JBandGoldwaterShow.com. Make sure you download the JB and Goldwater app so you can watch and listen to our program. Again, if you're watching to the right of your screen is Darren, I'm Jamie over here on the left. Check out also, if you're in the market for a new car and you're getting the tax money back, StokesVW.com. But yeah, what a weekend for Carolina baseball. And now they move forward undefeated at 6-0. And the 2 walkoffs put Andrew Eister in true Gamecock lore. He'll be a legend forever now. That'll never disappear for him. He'll forever be known by whatever he's known by the fans, whether it's Clemson killer or whatever you want to call him. I know that twice this weekend he went into Eister Alley with walk-offs, and I was pretty surprised. I'll say this. I was pretty surprised by how they pitched him yesterday because, he'd already done it on Saturday. And that first pitch that they threw him was a little high and away. And I was watching the game with a couple of dudes who know a little bit about hitting, to say the least. And when that first one came, based on what he had already done in the ball game and what he had done at the end of the game on Saturday, I kind of looked at him. I thought, there's no way they're throwing to him here, right? And he's like, dude, they're idiots if they do.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys that I was with. And sure enough, the next one was right there. And that's his sweet spot. He's a big right center guy. And when he's swinging it well, he's hitting it to right center. Eister is. And he did it yesterday to walk it off for Carolina. And they get a series win. They did win the series back in 2019 as well against Clemson. But the rest of the season didn't work out very well. That was the most least talented team that Mark Kingston has had, and certainly the least talented team that Carolina has had in quite some time. No offense to many of those young men, certainly, but yeah, they just weren't what this team is or those prior to. And all of a sudden, leading into the weekend, we were talking about 5 of the last 6 series have been won by Clemson. That number has now turned to 2 of the last 3 have been won by South Carolina. And Mark Kingston's all-time record now against the Tigers is 6-5 as the head coach of the Gamecocks. More importantly, though, D1 Baseball has released their top 25 today, and Carolina did slide up in the rankings again, Darren. They're up now to number 14. So starting the season inside the top 20, and because they have won 6 straight games, they're up to number 14 in the country. But here's the kicker.
Okay.
That puts them 7th
in the SEC.
In the SEC. And here's why. Arkansas is at 1, Vanderbilt is at 2, Mississippi State is at 3, and Ole Miss 4. At 6, Florida, and at 11, LSU. That is 6 teams in the same league ranked ahead of South Carolina, and they're 14th in the country. But outside of Arkansas, they are the next highest ranked undefeated baseball team in college baseball. The Razorbacks are 7-0. Nobody behind them is undefeated until you get to 14th ranked South Carolina at 6-0. So they are making noise here early in the year in college baseball. And I know that many of the folks who pull for the Garnet and Black, certainly a pretty good weekend outside of the ladies dropping their SEC regular season championship opportunity over in College Station. But the basketball team gets a 21-point win on the road against Georgia in Athens. The baseball team takes care of business against Clemson. The weather's warm. The state restrictions are starting to come off. People are breathing again, and there's optimism inside of the South Carolina athletics department. Certainly.
It's wild. And Tyler chimed in online, and I was thinking about this yesterday. First of all, as soon as Eister walked it off again, I tweeted, "Forever a legend." I mean, yeah. It's over. It is over. It doesn't matter what he does the rest of his career.
You always remember
legend.
This.
Absolute legend. Number 2. So the biggest game of the weekend was probably the Gamecock women. They lost, but the Gamecocks baseball team gets 2 against Clemson the way they did. Basketball looks great with what Frank Martin in the postgame interview said. His defense is being dubbed the Cuban pack line by his staff.
Right.
And Gamecock Nation's thrilled. It's like, okay, we can handle that loss. Let's just not think about it for a second. Look what our basketball team did. Look what our baseball team did. The sun's out. We're good, man.
That's right.
We're good.
Spring practice starts in a couple of weeks. All of a sudden, folks are feeling good about themselves with the start of the Carolina baseball season. Again, it's 6-0. Skylar Meade going to join us in about a minute on the program, though. But first, if you missed it, Tommy Moody had the call on Saturday. Derek Scott, he had the call yesterday. Derek is going to join us at 1:30 this afternoon. If you missed what both ends of those games sounded like, here's a brief reminder as we welcome Skylar Meade to the JB and Goldwater Show.
1-2 pitch. There's a shot, and it is going to be over the head of the center fielder. The Gamecocks have won this game. They played shallow, and they got burned on Andrew Eister. And considering they had the shift on toward right center, he did go Eister alley. He did win this ball game.
Ball hit well. Right center field. Eister has done it again. The Gamecocks walk off Clemson as Brady Allen crosses home plate, and a stream of garnet jerseys makes its way to second base to tackle Andrew Eister. You can put spurs on a Gamecock win and a series win over Clemson Andrew Eister does it again, Tommy, to Eister Alley.
There's no question. Eister Alley was hot this weekend. By the way, he's hitting .393 on the year for Carolina through 6 games, and that's good enough for third because Wes Clark's is .636. And how about Braylon Wimmer? Got hot this weekend as well at .467. And to talk about all of that, including his pitching staff, who was able to hold the Tigers at bay, is the pitching coach of the Gamecocks, kind enough to pop on again, Skylar Meade. I know we're wearing you out, man, but I appreciate it.
Hey, when we talked this much years ago, things are going well, so hopefully this is a good omen.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, you know, I don't think we had much to do with it, but the guys that you rolled out there this weekend certainly did. You know, first and foremost, congratulations, a series win over the Clemson Tigers. Most importantly, though, you're 6-0. Skylar, your team gets more confident by the day. How did it feel last night? What were the conversations like in the dugout and in the locker room post game as you move forward off this series win?
Well, I'll first hit you with a cliche.
Oh boy,
because Coach Kingston's motto. But we all like a good cliche, though.
That's right.
But I mean, yesterday was us going 1-0 on the day again, which has been our big motto with Coach Kingston and the players. Really, I mean, you know, we got a little council of guys. That's been their motto, is just go 1-0 on the day. And so I think that's helped maybe simplify aspects of the game, because I heard Eister make some comments about it. We all know it's the hardest game there is. Yeah. So when you just think about being 1-0 on the day, it does make life easier. But in terms of the conversation after the game, I mean, I think we've learned many of things about our team, and we're not a perfect team. We got things we got to work on in all aspects, but to be able to like show a lot of resilience and toughness, like sometimes those are cliches but you go, you know, we just had a guy go 9 innings and he punched out 15 and we got like 4 hits, and someone goes, man, they were resilient. It's like, no, man, they just had a super stud on the mound. I thought our team had to show a lot of guts in different ways. And I know there's a laundry list of them, but I thought that was the most exciting thing for us, is to see a lot of guys show really like Gamecock toughness, like we asked them to have.
Well, and there's no question. I mean, and there's always a couple of ways to look at things, right, Skylar? And there's the glass half full and the glass half empty view, depending on who you talk to. And when you go back to Saturday night, you get the rain out on Friday. You know you're going to be teeing it up to go on Saturday, and you go out there for a team that hadn't struck out much this year, struck out a lot on Saturday, 21 times. It was a school record. And here's the glass half full side. You won the game. You won the game 3-2, obviously with the walk-off from Eister. But there's a very important number in all that, 2. I mean, your guys also struck out 16 Clemson Tigers that day, and I think you struck out 14 more of them yesterday, 30 in 2 games. So the staff certainly did their job. Well, as Saturday night was unfolding, you get a great start from far, and then Bosnick comes in, and then you throw Carey out there, and we'll get to the breaking ball that left the yard in a second, and then Sanders. You know, what were those conversations like? I know this is the second time I've asked you that question in a short time here, but you knew you couldn't give up a bunch because you weren't going to be able to score a bunch that day. It was just one of those days at the plate for your guys. So what were those conversations like between innings as you kept rolling out your bullpen?
Well, you know, we try to make sure that we line things up in a way that was conducive to us and the matchups that we were putting our guys in, and then, you know, what their lineup provided for us. And, you know, I thought we were able to do that with, you know, Julian coming in there to go get after French, you know, the freshman left-handed hitter Urban, and then Gallo, like in the 7th after Farr had done his work. And, you know, we're still going to be very smart with our guys. You know, Farr only threw 86 pitches the other day, and I think it was a good time to get him out, which obviously proved to be true. And then, you know, when Julian we sat there and said, you know, he's on a different routine, you know, coming out of the bullpen just with the condensed weekend. We said, you know what, we're going to go to the best dude we got. And Carey came in that 8th inning after Julian, and obviously was tremendous. And, you know, I know it's obviously you can talk about it easier because we ended up winning the game. But I really believe, I thought Saturday night may have been Brett Carey's one of the finest performances. And I know someone will go, what are you talking about? He gave up the home run to tie the game. Yep. The guy made one bad pitch, and I think a lot of guys would have folded and said, man, I could be the hero. I'm going to walk out of this park, and everyone says how incredible you are, and you make a bad pitch. and you give up a home run on an 0-2 count. And he comes back and gets the next 6 guys, 5 of them via strikeout. And his strikeouts had nothing to do with the big zone. He just got after dudes and gave us a chance to roll that lineup and win the game when we did. And so I think he should be commended.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure people, you know, thought it's easy to second guess and, should you not throw a breaking ball? Well, he threw an 0-2 breaking ball to the hitter before and struck the guy out and made him look bad. And if he executes his pitch, I know he gets him out, but he didn't. And that's the way baseball goes. But I thought for him to have that fortitude to go and do what he did after was absolutely massive. And then obviously Will Sanders coming in and being cool, calm, and collected and doing what he did was outstanding as well.
That kid's going to be a dude. He is going to be a dude. He's got something special in that right arm. You mentioned the zone, and look, you won the series this weekend, so we're not going to sit around here and spend the next 10 minutes, Skylar, harping on any of the negative this weekend, certainly. But as a pitching coach, I mean, I've been there, you know, squatting behind the plate, and you don't know what's going on. And I'll be honest, I actually thought that there were more calls that went against Clemson. Just in watching it, I couldn't tell obviously as much as y'all could being in the ballpark, but it was everywhere. And I don't know if he just had a bad day back there, the umpire, the guy behind the plate, or what. But as you were calling pitches, how did that affect you throughout the game, and how was that affecting your guys on the bump?
Well, you know, it's funny. Sometimes when you bring guys out of the bullpen, the communication piece can be a little different in the sense of, like for Farr going 6 innings, throwing, 80 plus pitches, you probably get an idea to understand maybe what an umpire is calling, what they're not calling. And for example, like let's say an umpire has a elevated strike zone where they call the high strike. That may not apply to every pitcher. So one thing you got to do is you still got to know what your strengths are.
Right.
But I think that's where it really falls on the player, being a great communicator, and that falls on your catcher. And I think Burgess does a really good job of this. But if you're able to have an umpire that gives you, a little bit extra zone, then you gotta catch and give targets accordingly. You have to be aware of that. And obviously, as a pitcher, you need to know, okay, if I stick it through my catcher, and maybe this is a bit of a bigger or pronounced zone, I got to utilize it. If you don't, then you're not taking advantage of a game situation. I think sometimes people, it's as if, you realize in every sport, just some games are called different. You watch college basketball one night, every single screen is an illegal screen. You watch football and people got mad in the Super Bowl. I can't believe they're calling those holds. Well, they're holds. Like they're holds. Watch the play. So I just think you need to have an understanding of what's going on and then adjust accordingly. So I know that that's a topic people love talking about, but I just think it's part of the human element that makes sports great. Is there's a different deal every night and you adjust to it. Doesn't make one good, one bad. It is what it is, and play the game accordingly.
Skylar, Monty mentioned it. Coach Kingston mentioned it before the year even started. We were talking with both of them about the early timing of this series and what you might learn about your guys. You had a sense of the toughness and stuff that you referenced before. What'd you learn? What'd the staff learn about this team now 6 games in?
Well, I don't know if we learned this, but Wes Clark is on fire.
The easy way
crap.
out.
I mean,
I've never seen this.
Incredible. I mean, it's something else. But I thought, and I mean this in the most positive way, I thought a lot of guys showed their true colors. We as coaches and our whole coaching staff and across the country, 300 schools, we're all guilty of this. We see our guys play against their teammates, right? And we think that that's a full reflection of what they are as a player. And sometimes guys show you something different when they get out there in real games and they're facing hitters who have only seen them on a abbreviated scouting report, right? Like they get in there and there's a different color uniform, and then that player or pitcher becomes a different dude, a different animal. And so I think that's what we learned. I mean, we learned that Jack Mahoney, the competitor, he's a psychopath that gets after dudes. We learned that Andrew Peters can go out there and throw the easiest 95 and throw 82% strikes, and in a very tough situation. We learned Eister can handle big spots late in games. Brady Allen is the leadoff guy we think he can be. I mean, we learned a ton of things, and we also learned things we got to work on. We know that we got to we got to knock down walks from a couple guys who just got some things to work on. We got to handle the baseball even cleaner in the field. We have some guys that we're going to get rectified offensively. So we're not perfect by any means, but it's nice that you can win some games when you're not playing maybe perfect baseball.
Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the Gamecocks. They're 6-0. They're ranked 14th in the country, and they just took their second series in 3 seasons against the Clemson Tigers. So, as it pertains to your staff, you mentioned Peters. So I was watching the game yesterday, and I'll mention who I was watching it with to bring credibility to this conversation. I was watching it with Justin Smoke, and every arm that you rolled out yesterday after in addition to Jordan, but every arm that you rolled out after that, Mahoney, Phipps, I believe, is it Linsman? Linsman, is that how you say it?
Linsman. Yep.
Linsman.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've known about Daniel Lloyd for a long time. Big arm, Peters, Sanders. Every one of these guys, I'm looking at Smoke. He goes, dude, they got dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're here. They are. They're pumping 93, 94, 95, whatever it is. And then some, but you can tell. I mean, obviously he can tell he's a big leaguer. I mean, it's a little bit different through his eyes as opposed to somebody else's. But they all have little things to work on. Maybe from a control standpoint or whatever that may be up there. But when you see that some of these guys are really young. And when you see them up there throwing in the mid-90s, what do you see through your eyes as their pitching coach? What do you see about the present and the future of this staff?
I mean, it's certainly exciting when you see young guys, especially in this sort of rivalry, especially when both teams are really good. I mean, I think Monty and I think they got a heck of a squad.
They do.
I really do. I like their pieces, their young pieces.
Yeah,
you sit there, and at least from my perspective, I'm like, this guy's going to be there 3 more years? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, I really like their team. I think they're going to be good. And I would say that if we had lost the 2 games, I would be just as complimentary. I'm not just saying it because we found a way to win those first 2. I think they got a really good team. Obviously, that coaching staff is really good. And, I mean, I'll sign up for, like, Ty Olenchuk. That dude's a winner.
Yep.
I mean, Caden Grice is going to be an animal. They got some really good young pieces. But, with those pitchers, I think you kind of said it. Like, there are parts of their game, they all show you the flashes that it takes to pitch in high, like, leverage spots. But some of them just got to maybe work on maybe a mechanic, maybe something mentality wise, or maybe just sometimes it's usage. Sometimes it may fall back on me as a coach going, oh, you know what? Had we used this pitch in this scenario, this may have turned out a little bit better. And sometimes you can't learn that until you learn. Like, you have to see what happens and kind of evaluate it. But no, I've loved what we've seen. We've thrown 13 guys, and we have some really good ones that, are going to get in there and get in the mix as well. And I like seeing them all duke it out and be competitive for their innings.
Yeah. I mean, this is as live of a staff as I've seen in a while at South Carolina, maybe ever. You mentioned Wes Clark. I just want. I mean, it's ridiculous to ask you, what do you think? That's kind of a stupid question. I think we all think the same thing.
He's hot.
Yeah, this guy's really, really, really good. But what made him that way, Skylar? What were you seeing in the fall as you tried to call pitches against this guy? What were you seeing in the spring as you inter-squatted? What does Wes Clark do behind the scenes that has gotten him to this point? It's early, guys. They got 47 games to play. But what made him this way to get off to this type of start?
I think it's really simple, to be honest with you. He is just incredibly strong. And I think I said it last week when we were talking, like, Billy Anderson does a great job with our guys. We have a great strength coach, and we have access to our weight room. Like, you got to be a man to really play in this league, especially as a position player. He's crazy strong. He has a simple swing. It is not a big swing. It's very A to B. And when you have both of those things and you experience some success, your confidence just goes through the roof. I mean, it's just he feels good about himself. He feels confident, and therefore, when he impacts a baseball properly, it has the ability to go out, especially in our yard. So it's really exciting. Can you keep this up a whole year? I don't think so, but I would sign up for it. Like I jokingly said to you, I think last week. I'll sign up if he wants to hit 85 home runs, but we don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, that would
It'd be cool if it did.
That would be a record. There's no
Yeah, I think so.
if he hits 85, yeah, no, that's wow. It really is unbelievable to watch what he's doing right now. All right, you got Winthrop this week. Yeah, that's a tricky game tomorrow. You got to tie it on and go up to Rock Hill. They're going to be looking for revenge. You already beat them earlier this year. And then you got Mercer this weekend. Mercer is I know they're on a 4-game losing streak, but they're a really, really, really talented and really good baseball team. So what is, and we didn't even mention Eister in this conversation. He has been the talk of the world. He's forever a legend. There's no doubt. Hopefully he stays hot. He's hitting 400 basically on the year. But as this week unfolds here, this is one of those tricky weeks in college baseball, isn't it, Skylar? You got two teams that aren't named Clemson or Texas or Vanderbilt, but these are two rock-solid programs with rock-solid histories and traditions. So what is most important this week for your squad as you try to continue to improve on that 6-0 record?
We'll definitely, be mentally prepared, with what guys do with their recovery today. And then just approach tomorrow. Like I said earlier, it sounds cliche, but it's the reality. We just got to play really good against Winthrop. I mean, even us as coaches, I couldn't tell you a thing about Mercer. I don't care about Mercer. Gotcha. They mean nothing until Tuesday night, whenever that game ends, then we'll move on to them. But I think our players will continue to do the same thing because they're very bought in. Plus, a lot of it is their own internal messaging that they do within one another. And so, I think we'll have good preparation tomorrow and be ready to go. And you know what? You played a team last week, so they're going to try to make some adjustments, but hopefully, we make the proper adjustments and guys take advantage of their opportunities that they're going to get.
Well, I hope that they get a lot of opportunities, and I hope that next time we talk, you still have a 0 on the right side of that record, Skylar. What a start. Couple of walk-offs this weekend. I know that felt good for your program after the COVID-shortened 2020 and dropping the series to the Tigers last year. Not only did you beat them this weekend, you made it hurt. Eister ends the game twice with a couple of big bops there. And you're right, and I'm glad you said it because we haven't had a chance to get to that yet. You beat a really good team. Monty Lee is a fine coach. He's a fine man, and he's got a damn good baseball team. They're going to beat a lot of teams this year. I think you're going to look back at this series win, and you're going to be really, really happy that you got it the way you did.
Oh, absolutely. No, they're going to do some really good things. And obviously down the road, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. We got to play them again. And so we'll have to, as they say, we'll have to strap it on and bring our A game because you're going to have a team that's going to be even better, I think, come May for them.
I agree. I promised you 12:25. I can't count. It's 12:28. I'm a little bit off.
That's all good.
Hey, man, I know you got stuff to get to. Tell Mark and Coach Lake and everybody, and obviously to you, congratulations. Big win this weekend for you guys. Go get them this week.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Carolina, again, 6-0, the only team left in the state of South Carolina that is undefeated. Real quick before we head to a break here to tell you what else happened around the state this weekend. Tough one in town. The College of Charleston swept by USC Upstate. I know Coach Holbrook isn't happy about that. They finally got the bats going on Sunday, but they couldn't hold the Upstate offense at bay. 13-10, that final loss. The Cougars now 2-5 to open the year. They got a big week as well. They got to go to Jacksonville tomorrow, Darren. And then, as you know, because you'll be over there in the broadcast booth this weekend, Alabama will be in town at Patriots Point. The SEC's Tide will roll in, and the College of Charleston will look to try to get a series win against them. The Citadel 2-4 after a 1-2 performance against the North Florida Ospreys this weekend. They did win Friday, but dropped consecutive ball games on Saturday in that doubleheader. And again, the Dogs 2-4 this week. They got North Carolina A&T. By the way, they also go to Jacksonville, but on Wednesday.
All
so
right.
back-to-back Charleston teams will be heading south to Jacksonville, Florida. CSU, of course, didn't play, but they plan to this weekend. They've got Ryan Mao and Longwood. Longwood going to come back to town. They're already here in Charleston to open the year as they took 2 of 3 from the Citadel. They will be in North Charleston starting Friday for a 3-game series. Coastal Carolina swept through the CCU baseball tournament this weekend. They beat Bryant, West Virginia, and Kennesaw State. Again, now 5-2. Davidson on Friday this week, Miami of Ohio, and then UConn Sunday and Monday. All those games part of the Baseball at the Beach tournament up there in Conway. You already know what happened with Clemson and South Carolina, and that is your weekend baseball roundup. Certainly have some SCS football to get to. Dogs played, didn't get it done against Mercer. We got a bunch of hoops to get to as well throughout the afternoon. We got Derek Scott at 1:30, so it is pretty packed. But when we return, Wes Mitchell of Gamecock Central, he's going to check in right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Peace and love at Stokes V-Dub.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. For the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes V-Dub.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down plus tax. Tag includes $499.50 administration fee subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Ducks, 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clemens Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater pints. That's right. Every Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck, Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clemens Ferry location. Plus, baseball spring training, college baseball, spring football, it's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
Hey! Now! Hear this.
Who the hell is that? The JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
All right, 12:33. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by Mcfadden Pest Control on a Monday afternoon. Here comes the rain, folks, but it'll be out of here by the end of the week. It better be, because I have my daughter's birthday party coming up this weekend.
Rain?
Oh, yeah. It's coming in later on today, and it'll be here till Wednesday morning.
See, that's how you ruin my day often, because I'm looking, I'm like, my God, it's been beautiful. I didn't even think rain was in the forecast.
Well, it is. You got to check the weather.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Real quick before we get to Wes Mitchell, 2 Wes's don't make a right. I'm just kidding. University of South Carolina baseball.
He's
junior.
feeling good today.
Wes Clark, once again, back-to-back National Player of the Week honors. He's selected by Collegiate Baseball. And I got a feeling there's more of those on the way. But Wes Clark has done it again. Tell me where you've heard that before. Another National Player of the Week honor. I don't know how Andrew Eister didn't get a little consideration for that. He went 5 for 11 this weekend against the Tigers with a couple of walk-offs. That would, in my book, that gets you a National Player of the Week honor. But Wes Clark got it. He continues to lead the country in home runs. No shocker to anybody, including this Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I appreciate Wes Clark doing it for all the Wes's out there. He's kind of representing for all of us.
It's a popular name these days. Yeah, you know. Has your performance been as good as Wes Clark's? When's the last time you hit a home run?
Oh, no, nowhere close. I mean, Chris Clark and I, who we joked that Wes Clark obviously is the combination of both of our names. We're like, Wes Clark has way more power than both of us combined. So pretty impressive. Just and I like how everybody's been getting in on this, like Frank Martin talking about how a Wes Clark bomb almost hit their bus as they were on the interstate coming back. So it's been pretty cool to see everybody sort of support Wes Clark and everything he's done, because it really is historic what we're seeing from this guy.
Dude, this is something. And here's the thing, Wes. I'm just going to use your name a lot today because it's a popular one. Here's the thing. I was just talking to somebody on the phone about this before we jumped on the air about 30 minutes ago. there has been a silencing of criticism in the Gamecock fan base over the last week. All of a sudden, the Hoop Squad won again this weekend. They've got Georgia's number, clearly. The baseball team is undefeated with a couple of walk-off wins, and they made it hurt. That they didn't pound Clemson this weekend. They just made it hurt.
They just ripped hearts out.
They pulled their hearts out of them, yeah. And all of a sudden, you got spring practice coming up. All of a sudden, people think, well, now, wait a second here. Wait a second. The sky might not be falling. Like, this place might not be crumbling to the ground like we all thought it was. Have you seen the optimism in the Gamecock Central message boards?
Well, we'll see how long that can last. It's always short-lived, but I mean, yeah, I think I'll take it a step further. I mean, I think this fan base needed, a win like that. And I say a win as in the series, just splitting, especially after the way South Carolina won on Saturday and just the elation within the fan base. And then to come back and maybe lose on Sunday and have to split them, and it gets pushed to Meade until you get to decide the winner of the series, and you're having to go to Clemson. That would have been bad, I think, for this fan base, because we've seen, South Carolina has struggled to get marquee wins in its three major men's sports in recent memory. So this was big for the entire fan base. I think it allowed them to actually, enjoy a big win. And clearly, you want to talk about this season. If you look at this schedule, I mean, it is an absolute juggernaut for South Carolina baseball. So to win some games, while you have an opportunity, and go ahead and sort of create that little bit of a buffer, if you will, because there will be times you play a schedule as talented as the one South Carolina plays. There are going to be some times where South Carolina is going to have a chance to struggle. There's going to be a stretch where they don't play as well. It's going to happen, but to get some momentum early on and not sort of be having to dig yourself out, I think will be massive for this baseball team.
Yeah, there's no question about that. They certainly have momentum right now, as much as almost anybody in the country in college baseball at this point in time. Wes Clark, people have figured out the name by now, and they're really paying attention. And that's the thing. That's what's happened here. Not only are they 6-0, Wes, it's not a quiet 6-0. It's not like they're 6-0 and a little under the radar. I mean, they came into the year ranked in the top 20, and it was okay. All right, this team's got a chance to be pretty good. But now you've got this guy who's now, I think this is his 4th overall National Player of the Week award in back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
And he's taken the country by storm. And so this hasn't been quiet. This has been a big loud boom out of Columbia, South Carolina. People are paying attention to him, and by doing that, they're all of a sudden seeing, well, now wait a second, Carolina baseball, they might actually be a contender again in the SEC, and folks have begun to really, really pay attention to that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't really think this is a fluke by Wes Clark. Obviously, we know the guy's not going to continue at this pace. That's impossible in this game. But I was just as amazed with something else other than the home runs yesterday, was his at-bat late in the game when I can't remember which Clemson pitcher was on the mound at the time, but first 2 pitches were just absolute pitcher's pitches, perfect on the outside corner, and Wes Clark watched them both for strikes, and there was really nothing he could have done with either one of those pitches. And then 0-2, he basically adjusts and shortens up a little bit, sort of goes the opposite way and lines the ball right up, sort of to the middle, but to the right side there. And I'm like, this guy is not just some big home run hitting guy that can't actually handle the bat. I mean, the most impressive thing about Wes Clark to me is that his power comes so easily to him. It's, a lot of these guys, especially in this day and age of baseball, it's, it's the 3 outcomes are you either have a home run, a strikeout, or a walk, it seems like. This is a guy who actually can shorten up, can use all parts of the field. And then I caught the tail end of Skylar Meade. I think this is what he was talking about. He's just so daggum strong that he doesn't have to sort of muscle up to get the ball out. That's just sort of his natural swing. So it's just all types of impressive for so many different reasons.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's exactly right. It is very impressive, and you're right about that. AB, that he hits that 0-2. I think it was a fastball. It was a fastball.
It was a fastball.
It was a fastball because I couldn't believe they just thrown him 3 in a row.
Yeah, he basically just wristed it right through. Just
he made an adjustment. And again, guys, he's walked 9 times and he struck out 4 through 6 games. And I know, and he didn't have any coming into the weekend. We all thought he'd strike out this weekend. He did. Everybody struck out on Saturday. Everybody, literally everybody. I mean, there was a lot of them there. But this is something we've pretty much never seen before. The start that he's off to. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. His next crack will be tomorrow in Rock Hill. They travel up the road to take on Winthrop before welcoming the Mercer Bears to town for a 3-game series on Friday. All right, Wes, I do want to slide into some football stuff with you here, if you don't mind. I know you cover football, so if you'd be obliged to handle this conversation for us, we'd appreciate that. Did get some news over the weekend, some interesting news. So Darian Kendrick has been dismissed from the Clemson football team. And I know that you don't cover Clemson. I'm not necessarily asking you what happened there. I know he's been in some hot water before with Dabo Swinney in that program. And then we also found out yesterday that Eric Gilbert is transferring from Florida. He just transferred to Florida. These are 2 elite players. Gamecocks have played against them the last couple of years, obviously, and know who they are. Are you monitoring what their futures look like? Is that something worth monitoring for you and your staff at Gamecock Central as it pertains to the Gamecocks or anybody else?
Yeah, no, I mean, we check on everything for the most part, but I don't foresee that being something to monitor, for South Carolina fans. I don't see that happening. I guess I'll say it like that. I don't know the details on what happened with either of those things. I did see some speculation online about Gilbert, as far as maybe not being accepted to Florida, potentially being the reason why. I don't know if that's out there as a fact or not, but yeah, not something I'm going to be watching there. We sort of checked on DK just because it is a local kid. It's someone that South Carolina recruited out of high school right down the road in Rock Hill. Could have been a big recruit for them. And obviously he went to Clemson instead, but I don't really foresee that happening there for South Carolina.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. And I don't cover recruiting, Wes, but I tend to agree with you. I'll take your expertise over mine any day of the week. All right. Well, let's talk about the quarterback recruiting situation right now, because a couple of days ago, I think maybe it was Friday or Thursday, Wes. You'll have to get me right on that one. But Alabama landed, I guess maybe their top prospect, their top quarterback prospect, and I know that Tanner Bailey is a quarterback out of Alabama who South Carolina has been recruiting and pursuing. Can you kind of explain this situation here? I know that maybe there's some thought out there that if Alabama offered this kid and he committed, that would certainly obviously would take Carolina out of it, but obviously that didn't happen. So what happened with Alabama? Who did they get, and where does Carolina stand with the young man, the Bailey kid, out of the Yellowhammer State?
Yeah, basically quarterback recruiting is sort of a game of dominoes or, musical chairs, essentially. So when one guy commits, it can have an effect on everybody else if that kid is a big enough domino in the grand scheme of things. So you're talking about in the case of Ty Simpson, someone that committed to Alabama was not really a guy that South Carolina was in on, but here locally Clemson was in on. So you saw a domino effect there where they turned right around and offered a quarterback prospect, I think within hours, within minutes of the news that he was going to Alabama. And then obviously that takes up a slot that any other kid could have used, to go to Alabama. So essentially when that spot is filled, that takes out an option for Tanner Bailey. He's a 4-star kid from Alabama that had an Alabama offer. Like any other school, you don't just offer one, you offer several quarterbacks, and then it's sort of a combination of who commits first, or, frankly, a lot of times the school, maybe you offer a guy, but you're pushing for this one, a little bit harder, hoping that you get, this is your top priority, but you keep recruiting maybe a backup plan or two as well. So, that's the case where Alabama has now filled up. South Carolina firmly in the mix with Tanner Bailey. I'm I'm not ready to say necessarily that means, the kid is definitely going to South Carolina. I'm not ready to sort of make that jump yet, but it very clearly helps South Carolina. We know that getting a kid out of Alabama, if Alabama wants them and has a spot for them, is incredibly difficult and nearly impossible if you're not another national power, frankly. So this obviously helps South Carolina. They need a 2022 quarterback. They were a little bit behind just as far as that cycle goes because quarterback recruiting starts so early. No fault of their own when you have your new staff come in and it's I guess what was that, December when it all runs together. But Beamer was hired in December, so you're sort of playing catch up a little bit there. So he's one we're monitoring very, very closely, and we'll see if South Carolina can close on him here as his recruitment. I think it sounds like his recruitment is sort of starting to wind down as well.
4-star kid. What type of player is he? What type of quarterback is he?
He's I think we have him listed as a pro style guy. That's probably fair. Frankly, I think the whole pro style dual threat, let's lock these guys into this box. I think that's played out, honestly. So to me, we're sort of way too ready to sort of say this guy plays this way and this guy plays this way. If I look at him, he's a guy that is a pass first quarterback. That's what I look at. Is he a pass first or is he a run first quarterback? He's a pass first quarterback. And then I look and say, okay, can he move in the pocket? Can he extend plays? And this is a kid that can move around in the pocket, can extend plays. He's athletic enough to take what is there, but he's never going to be like that true difference maker in the running game, if that makes sense. Not the biggest kid, a very accurate passer down the field, shows some really nice deep balls on film, and certainly obviously a national level recruit, not necessarily like, a 5-star elite guy in the rankings, but a national quarterback at that.
Wes Mitchell, Gamecock Central, 12:48 on this Monday afternoon. All right, so what happened with Sam Mccall? Sam Mccall, a 4-star corner. I think he's from the state of Florida. I know at one point in time he had been committed to Torian Gray at Florida with the Gators. Of course, Torian Gray is at South Carolina now. He's a young man who I think from what I've heard, Wes, in reading your reports, Chris's reports, and kind of listening to y'all talk about things, I think Carolina has felt for a while like this is a young man that could probably get on the campus. He's an elite talent. But then I see over the weekend he commits to Florida State. So do you have any backstory on that, and what does the future of his recruitment look like for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, well, I think your terminology sort of sums it up for South Carolina. Get him on campus, and right now, impossible to get kids on campus. So I think for South Carolina, this is a kid very much likes Torian Gray, had a great relationship with Torian Gray. That was a huge reason for him to pick Florida in the first place. But obviously, there was also a drive to stay in your home state when he picked UF in the first place. Florida State sort of has taken advantage of that and pushed once he decommitted from Florida as well. He named Florida State as his leader to rivals last week. So I think South Carolina obviously knew they were sort of still fighting a little bit of an uphill battle just because you're not in the top position. But they felt like if they could get him on campus, get him in for a visit, and things open up again and this thing gets expanded out, then, you have a shot. I think that's something South Carolina is fighting right now, is out-of-state kids not really understanding exactly what they have at South Carolina from a facility standpoint, from a standpoint of the academics, and just all the different opportunities you have at South Carolina, as a student athlete. Very hard to appreciate those things over a Zoom call or a video or, something like that. So I think this is a situation I'm sure South Carolina will stay in touch. He's decommitted once before, so he is a good enough player. This kid is really, really good. He's a good enough player. You keep battling for him, right? If he wants to talk on the phone, if he wants to answer your calls, you keep sort of hanging in there and seeing what will happen. But I think the in-state pull for a guy with visits still not being an option was too much for South Carolina, at least for right now.
Yeah, this is the conversation. We've had this conversation, Darren and Wes, over and over and over for the last couple of months. I continue to stand my ground in the fact that I think it is ridiculous that the NCAA won't allow these schools to make their own decisions and let these kids come visit campus. There are ways to do it. And this is what I'm talking about right here. And I'm not saying that pinning anything on you, Wes Mitchell, and saying, well, that's the only reason he committed Florida State because he couldn't come to South Carolina and visit. I'm not saying that at all. But just taking away the opportunity, you don't know,
and it hurts schools that aren't name brands.
That's right. Yeah,
and obviously South Carolina is not one.
It's ridiculous. All right, give us some more in the recruiting world. A couple of other updates here. I know Antonio Williams, the wideout from Columbia, really picking up steam, big time wide receiver who's moving up the player rankings charts or whatever you want to call them by rivals. If you have any information on him and maybe some additional information on some other prospects out there, just some of the hot momentum right now in recruiting for Carolina football.
Yeah, Antonio probably one of the hottest names in state as far as recruiting goes and as far as offers go. Just in February alone, he got, I think, Notre Dame, Auburn, Georgia, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Michigan. You're talking about some big time offers, and this is someone that Justin Stepp and Eric Kimry have as a major priority for South Carolina. Stepp talks to him every single day, pretty much, and he told me I actually was over at his 7-on-7 practice on Sunday. Was over there a few weeks ago as well. He told me both times, South Carolina's been recruiting me the hardest. So you can tell he's a major priority for the Gamecocks. The recruiting stock continues to go up. I imagine he'll continue to add offers. I think he's at about 24 right now. You're talking about a kid that, again, coaches were not able to go on the road to tie all this in. So it's taken teams a little bit longer. He was hurt his sophomore year, so really just busted out as a junior. And now teams, word is getting out about this kid, and he continues to add offers. I think South Carolina has done a really good job with them so far. They've pushed the home state angle, the local angle, come in, play early. We know they have a need at wide receiver, so all those things I think work into South Carolina's favor with Antonio, and he wants to have a decision made before his senior year begins, before his senior season begins. So I would imagine sometime this summer we'll see. My question is, who is number two? We'll see. I think South Carolina obviously is a team that would be in a top group for him. My big question moving forward is who else, who's the biggest competitor here for South Carolina? Who's the other school to watch? I don't know if we quite know that yet. There are some connections here to Ole Miss. Murphy Holloway is his stepdad. That's a name a lot of people will know, the former basketball player that played at Ole Miss. So, some interesting connections there. So we'll see. Obviously, Lane Kiffin's got an offense that is, very I would say something that wide receivers are interested in for obvious reasons. So we will see there. Let's see some other guys. Jalen Glover, running back that South Carolina's in on, recently got his 4-star. He is actually teammates with Sam Mccall. So I think Florida State, a big factor there as well. Those two could potentially play together. This is a kid that Des Kitchings is a 4-star running back. Des Kitchings had South Carolina in prime position for. Obviously, he leaves, he goes to the NFL. Ontario Hardesty and Shane Beamer have done a really good job of sort of stepping in, helping that transition, making the kid feel comfortable. He's going to cut his list down to, I can't remember what the number is, down to a certain number here soon. And South Carolina will definitely make the cut there. So that's somebody else to keep an eye on for South Carolina fans.
Speaking of Lane Kiffin, OM Spirit, which is their 247sports.com website, somebody who covers the Rebels for OM Spirit wrote an article, Wes, that said early preseason confidence in Ole Miss football program high and widespread, and Lane Kiffin retweeted it and said, "Don't listen to the rat poison." He's taking Saban's little term there and run as far as he could with it.
He's fun, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's the best Twitter troll of a coach in the country by far.
Oh yeah, he's got game. He's got game with the tweet stuff, man. All right, real quick, last minute or two here. Anything? I know we're now 19 days away from spring practice opening for South Carolina. What are you kind of hearing out of the football program right now as they get prepared for spring workouts?
Yeah, a lot of positivity. I think this was, South Carolina starting later than most teams, or later. I don't know if it's later than most teams. I know it's later than South Carolina usually starts as far as spring practice goes. I think that's a great thing for these guys, y'all. I mean, this was an off season that weight room development, building strength, building speed, I think was so key for this team looking back to last year and not really having a true off season with all the COVID stuff. And, new strength and conditioning coach, obviously he's done a great job. Luke Day, the returns on him have been just absolutely A+ from everybody we've talked to. And the vibe in the room has just been really, really good. That's been something where I think the staff under Shane Beamer has kind of tried to go over the top on purpose as far as being positive, because, these guys, you look back the last 2 seasons, not a lot of winning. We know all the COVID stuff, coaching change, as far as the head coach, in almost all cases now, coaching change for position coaches as well, so these kids have new coaches, just so much newness in the program. So the plan for South Carolina, the approach has been positive. Let's try to build the kids up. So that's been their approach. That doesn't mean you're not working hard. You're obviously still pushing them, but positive reinforcement has sort of been the approach. And, I think there's a new vibe in the building from what I've heard. Having Derek Moore in the building is really, really nice for that as well. This is probably one of the most positive people you will ever meet in your life. So just having that has been something that's been really good for the kids, I think. And, I think they're excited to get back out there and try to have a real spring practice and sort of try to move this thing forward.
Women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball, football. Right now, it's all being covered by Gamecock Central, Wes Clark. Holy moly. Wes Mitchell. Chris.
He is being covered.
Yes. They're covering him too. Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, Colin Taylor, the entire staff. Wonderful people. And they do a wonderful job. If you don't have a subscription, you need to have one to GamecockCentral.com so you can keep up with all the news, nuggets, and notes that they can possibly give you day in and day out, like Wes just did for the last 25 minutes or so on our show. Hey, man, thanks so much. Have a wonderful week. Gamecock baseball and basketball is holding on to it right now. Hopefully it stays that way, and we look forward to catching up with you here in a few days.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good one, okay?
You got it. There you go. Wes Mitchell. Don't forget, GC Live comes up later on this afternoon as well, so make sure you find those guys at Gamecock Central. It's a great little show that they got going on, and certainly the website full of information at this point in time. So are we. Coming up here in hour number 2, we do have Derek Scott. He called the Hoops win over Georgia. He called the second walk-off yesterday over Clemson. He's going to join us at 1:30 this afternoon. But between now and then, we've got the national anthem. We've got some streaks to give to you. We've got some milestones to get out to you. We've got some NASCAR. We've got some golf. We've got some football. We've got some basketball. We got a lot of stuff to discuss in the next 30 minutes or so before Derek pops on to our program. So hang tight. Don't go anywhere. We're going to give you all that information when the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, returns. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour here on a Monday afternoon. It's the last warm day for a while, so enjoy it, even though the rain is scheduled to be in here before long, at least in the low country of South Carolina.
Not only are you telling me it's going to rain today, then it's also getting cooler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be cooler throughout the week, man. You didn't know that? You don't look at the weather?
I mean, it was a big weekend. Man. It was a big, busy sports weekend. So I haven't paid much attention. Sorry, Dave, Rob, to the weather. Not this weekend. I knew it was nice outside. I went outside.
Yeah, let me do my best, Rob and Dave here. Tomorrow's high 54 with a 50% chance of rain. Wednesday's high 59 with a 100% chance of rain.
So it's about to rain again.
Yeah,
got it.
Thursday, the high is 64 and a low of 42. Friday, the high of 58. Saturday, the high of 56. Sunday, the high of 58. So we're not out of the woods just yet, but next week, certainly according to my meteorology expertise,
there you go,
looks better. So all credit to Dave Williams and Rob Fowler.
Yes.
All right, 104 Monday afternoon, the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by Mcfadden Pest Control. They've been in the industry, in the business for over 40 years. It's over 4 decades, guys, taking care of homes, making sure that there aren't little spiders and roaches and stuff getting in and out of there. They don't do that because they protect it. That's why. They also protect your home from termites. They do that for us. They take care of the household pests. They take care of our mosquitoes. I got news for all of you. Here, we might have just mentioned the cool-off coming, but in about 3 weeks, those mosquitoes will be back. and they come out in full force every spring because they're anxious to go suck on some blood. So make sure that your yard is protected by Mcfadden Pest Control from mosquitoes. Make sure your home's protected from termites. Make sure your kids' rooms and bathrooms are protected from roaches and silverfish and spiders. You don't want any of that stuff. McFaddenPestControl.com, owned by South Carolina graduate Heath Gunther as well. Over 40 years in the industry, McFaddenPestControl.com. Make sure you downloaded our app, the JB and Goldwater app. Follow us on Twitter at SportsMediaJB, at Darren Goldwater, and, of course, collectively at JB and Goldwater. Derek Scott ahead at 1:30. Latest women's basketball polls are out, and South Carolina has slipped to number 7. They have fallen 6 spots since claiming the top spot before heading to UConn just a couple of weeks ago, but now the Lady G's will be the number 2 seed in the SEC women's basketball tournament. They lost their opportunity to win another Southeastern Conference regular season championship yesterday, Darren, on the road in College Station, 65-57, that final score. And I know that some in Gamecock women's basketball world are a little down and a little anxious. Remember, they are still 19-4, and I know that they are 2-2 in just their last 4 games with losses against 21st ranked Tennessee on the road, and of course 3rd ranked A&M on the road. All 3 of those losses have come on the road, by the way, in the last couple of weeks. Of course, UConn was the first one. They're 63-59 up in stores, but they'll be the 2 seed in the SEC women's basketball tournament, and every opportunity to be a 1 seed in the tournament itself is still out there, but they're probably going to have to go win the women's basketball tournament to do that at this point in time, Darren. But we'll see. We'll see how it all unfolds. I know some are frustrated. It's an incredibly talented team. They haven't necessarily played like that. I think, though, right now, UConn, probably NC State, now A&M, and more than likely Stanford, maybe Louisville. Probably those are the teams right now being considered for a 1 seed in the women's tournament.
Look, if you're frustrated, they're 19-4.
Yeah.
Their losses have come against some of the best programs in the country, save the exception of Tennessee, which isn't quite there now.
Might be on the way back.
But it's okay. So enjoy that frustration, right? You're looking at a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, number 2 seed in the SEC. That's what success is good for. Enjoy your frustrations of 19-4 and not a number 1 seed.
That's right. Yeah, it certainly was a tough end to the regular season, but we all knew there was a great chance they could go there and lose. They did, but the women's tournament is set to go here in just a few days. Other tournaments are also set to go in the next few days, like the Colonial Athletic Association's basketball tournament up in Harrisonburg, Virginia. The College of Charleston will be a 3 seed, and they will tip on Sunday, March 7th at 9:30. That's a scheduled 9:30 tip, and I think they'll probably will tip at 9:30 because they've spaced it out pretty well that day, Darren, unless you get one that goes, of course, into overtime. But it will all start actually on Saturday with the 8-9 matchup, the 7-10 matchups. By the way, Wilmington is the 10 seed. Isn't that crazy? Pretty proud program, but this year it's been a struggle, certainly. But the Cougs will get the late game, and if they're able to win that one, they will play on Monday the 8th against the winner of 2nd-seeded Northeastern and either William & Mary or UNCW, whoever advances out of that 7-10 matchup. The first game for the college is on Flow Hoops. I don't know if any of you are aware of that website. It's pretty neat. It'll be available on Flow Hoops, but then when they get into the semifinals, if they get there, both semifinal matchups and the championship game in the conference tournament will be available on the CBS Sports Network. Network Darren knows quite well because you call plenty of games on it. So College of Charleston looking to make some noise. They're going to have to win, Darren, they're going to have to win 3 games. If they can win 3 games in the tournament, the Cougs will dance. And so we'll have to check in with Everett German here soon and see what those chances look like for the College of Charleston. In the SoCon, the tournament is also set at the Harris Cherokee Center up in Asheville. The Citadel drew the 8 seed, and they've got 9th seeded Western Carolina on Friday, March the 5th at 5:30. At 5:30, that game will be on ESPN Plus, and of course the College of Charleston, if they're able to win that game, the Citadel, if they're able to win that game, they will take on top-seeded UNC Greensboro at noon on Saturday up there in Asheville. That also on ESPN Plus. The semifinals and the championship game for the Southern Conference. The semifinals will be on ESPNU. The championship game will be on ESPN for the SoCon. And I think it's been that way for a while, right? I'm pretty sure they always play that game on ESPN, don't they?
It rotates between ESPN, ESPN2, and sometimes ESPNU. The contracts with all of these leagues stipulate that ESPN family will carry them on linear, so it takes out the ESPN Plus. It's recent, though, that ESPN has picked up the semifinal. That's only the last couple of years with their new TV deal with the network.
Okay. All right. That's my TV guy giving you all the information you need here. By the way, real quick note, I mentioned the women's tournament for South Carolina. Remember, they don't have to play till the third day, which is Friday, and they've got a 6:00 tip in Greenville at Bones to Courts. It's essentially a home weekend for them. But they will be waiting on the winner of 10th seeded Missouri and 7th seeded Alabama. Of course, they beat both of them in the regular season. And if they win that game, they more than likely will get a rematch with 3rd seeded Tennessee on Saturday up there in Greenville on ESPNU. That first game for Carolina, the first 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all of those matchups televised on the SEC network for the women's tournament. The Sun Belt tournament is also set. At Coastal Carolina, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. They lost that game against Georgia State, and it was like, oh my gosh, it might bite them, and it did. So they got the 2 seed out of the East, and they are awaiting the Texas. They're awaiting. Let me make sure that I'm right about this. Yeah, okay. They're awaiting the Troy UTA game.
Okay.
The Troy UTA game. They'll play that game in the first round on Friday, and then whoever wins that will get Coastal in the quarterfinals on Saturday. All of those games available on ESPN Plus, but the championship game of the Sun Belt tournament will be on ESPN2 coming up next Monday, March the 8th. So Coastal certainly is looking to try to find a way to skip through there, but they finished the year 9-5. Georgia State, whom they beat, finished the year 8-4. They lost one of those games though, finished 8-4, and because of winning percentage, got the top seed out of the East.
Right, and when you say they lost one of those games, they lost the ability to play it.
Yeah, they couldn't play. They could only play one. They didn't play the other, or however it worked out. But Coastal wasn't able to complete their regular season slate in the league. And by virtue of losing games, of course, Georgia State lost games too. But at the end of the year, if the records were similar, which they were going to go by winning percentage if the number of games played was off. And that's how they decided that Georgia State would be the top seed out of the East.
Yep.
So some unfortunate stuff there, certainly. But Coastal Carolina still, of course, has every opportunity to win their way through. All right. In hoops, of course, Clemson this weekend. They beat Miami 66-58. They have now won 5 in a row, and they've won 6 of 7, Darren. They got Syracuse Wednesday at 5:00 on the ACC network. Brad Brownell mentioned this morning he's optimistic that P.J. Hall could be back for that game as well. That would be really good for the stretch run for the Tigers. 15-5, 9-5 in the ACC, and they are starting to make noise. And they're starting to knock on the door of higher seeds as well. Now, Raphael mentioned on our program on Friday, that's great. But that could also not be a good thing. You know, those 5, 6, 7 seeds, those opening challenges, when you get 10, 11, 12, that makes it a little bit more interesting, certainly. But the Tigers don't want to lose, and I don't blame them. And they didn't this weekend by beating the Hurricanes, who, the more they lose, it continues to look like there might be a coaching change down there with Jim Larinaga. We'll see if Frank Martin comes into that conversation at some point in time in the future. But right now, there is no discussion of a coaching change in the upstate because Brad Brownell has the Tigers playing as well as anybody in the league.
I thought, speaking of Frank Martin, if after the Georgia game, there was a window to fill for ESPN or whatever network he was on. So they had Frank on, and the announcers were not on site, but they put a headset on him. And he sounded better. He looked better. His attitude seemed better. He was able to joke around a little bit. He mentioned today in his media availability, I saw just some of the various outlets, I guess, that were covering that. One of the things he said was, you know, I've been asked a lot about the lack of success of the season. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. He's like, that's not, or the disappointment. He's like, that's not how I view it. This season was about getting through it with the guys having peace of mind. You know, that's what this year's been all about. So his focus has really stayed around that. And look, they played their best ball in a long time this weekend.
Yeah, they're playing incredibly well right now. they're a team that you're not going to probably want to run into. And defense is what's getting it done for Hoops. By the way, quick note on Brad Brownell, his 200th career win by beating Miami as well. His 200th career win as the head coach up there at Clemson, who, again, is 9-5 in the league. So is North Carolina at 9-5. Tigers already beat the Tar Heels earlier this year. But this weekend, Roy Williams became the 5th Division I men's basketball coach ever to reach 900 wins in his career. And it was neat because he was able to celebrate that milestone win in front of the home fans this year. They were actually finally able to have people in the arena up there at the Dean Smith Dome.
So 900 wins for Roy Williams. He's got 200 some odd losses. 900 wins in 1,100 something games.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, all he's done is win.
And they were down by like 20 points in that game to Florida State. And they came back and beat them. Of course, the Noles are the top team in the league right now, 14-4, 10-3 overall in the ACC.
And Hamilton was just extended. I think that word came out this morning. So back-to-back ACC regular season championships for the Seminoles, and he's been extended.
I'll tell you what, the ACC, the better teams in this league are turning it on at the right times. I mean, obviously Clemson's won 5 in a row. Which that's the best streak in the conference right now. NC State all of a sudden has won 4 in a row. You got Duke all of a sudden has won a bunch of games lately. I know that they just lost this weekend, but they have been playing much better. North Carolina has been playing much better. They're 15-8 overall. How about Georgia Tech, man? They've won 4 straight games. They're now 9-6 in the ACC. So the middle of the league all of a sudden has started to clog itself up like it generally does. For a while, we didn't think we'd see that. There's too many teams struggling. And you certainly have the bottom feeders. I mean, you take Pittsburgh and basically below them and kind of wipe them out. But then you've got NC State, Syracuse, Duke, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Clemson. Louisville. They're all kind of figuring it out. And then you got Florida State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech at the top. And I got a feeling that this ACC tournament is going to be really, really wacky.
It will be.
Like really wacky.
Because it's the first time in certainly any type of recent memory where some of these blue bloods are going into the tournament and they've got to win games. Duke has to win games in the tournament. Yeah. North Carolina has to win games in the tournament. Now, you don't see these teams on a year in, year out basis go to the tournament and fold up, tank, which is, the word of the decade, I guess. That doesn't happen in the ACC. But this tournament, there's more on the line. Because if the NCAA tournament wants the names of Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky in the SEC, these teams have to play well in their tournaments, and that's not something we're used to seeing. No,
you're right. Yeah, for the first time in a long time, the blue bloods of this league will be playing for their postseason lives.
Yes,
to dance, at least to dance. So, it's a great point, Darren. See, we listen to
Thank you
around here. Yeah, no question. More on Gamecock hoops. Obviously, they thumped Georgia on Saturday. Derek Scott called the game. He's coming up at 1:30, so we'll hold a lot of the South Carolina conversation. But Frank Martin, as you mentioned, much more optimistic over the weekend. This morning, he really shunned off this, how difficult of a year has it been? Has it been disappointing? He said it's been anything but disappointing. We're playing. And so we'll get into some of those comments with Derek coming up in just a little bit, obviously, in addition to the huge series win in baseball, in which Derek, of course, was able to call that game. Wasn't able to call the game on Saturday because he had the hoops game, which he called. I retweeted a really cool photo of Derek and Casey on Saturday. Skip Harlicka took the picture, former Carolina basketball legend. Mm-hmm. They were calling the hoops game from Williams-Brice Stadium. That's where they call the game.
Sometimes they've been doing it from Founders.
Yeah. They were at
Williams-Brice. Okay.
Yeah, they were calling it from the upstairs studio up there in the press box at Williams-Brice. And Skip Harlicka took a photo, and you could see Williams-Brice in the background and all of Columbia, and there was Derek and Casey staring at the screen trying to call the game.
It's a cool picture.
It is pretty cool.
That's what certainly all of the SEC is going through right now. The SEC road radio crews are not allowed to travel, so they're all doing that. Georgia Tech is doing that. I've seen articles really from across the country of how certain radio crews are handling it. And it's doable. It's doable. I mean, we talked to Reggie Merriweather all throughout football season. Clemson, for the most part, that radio team did not travel. They did go to Notre Dame, and they did go to the ACC championship, and then probably down to the bowl games as well, or the playoffs. Right. But it's unique. It's different. It's doable, but nobody wants this to be the norm. And the question is, how long is this going to be the norm? and nobody has that answer.
No, they don't.
Or like an estimate for that answer.
Yeah,
right
I mean, things are looking up. I mean, I would venture a guess. Hopefully, you know what? I won't even just go as far as to say what Mike Morgan said, although he would know much more than us because he's in the meetings. I don't think you're going to have an entire college baseball season, which obviously is going to end in June. I don't think you're going to have a whole year where they're calling those games from home. I think at some point in time in April or May, some of these, like South Carolina is essentially open for business now. Florida's open for business. You know, I mean, Mississippi, out, especially in the South, we know how that works. We're not getting into politics, but you know what I'm saying. Things are opening up a little bit more, and I think at some point in time, these networks are going to start to kind of shift their models a little bit more in favor of state regulations, which are rolling back.
So that'll be the question. The other part about it, I do think some of the bigger games you may see some guys on site for some very select few, maybe down into tournament, maybe once you get to Omaha, or maybe the regionals and stuff like that. But everyone is so set up now in their home studios. It's very easy from a network standpoint, not necessarily announcer, but from a network standpoint to keep rolling the way that they're doing it right now.
Yeah.
They've got it working pretty smoothly. There is a large question about how much of that will be used in the future in the post-COVID times. The main games you see post-COVID, you're going to see the guys back around the arena more often. The majority, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it's a very scary time for a lot of people who are in the business.
Well, and I think it sucks. I mean, I think it sucks.
Nobody likes it.
No, I think it's ridiculous. I think it sucks. You would agree with that. You're a play-by-play guy. You want to be. It is. I mean, I can't speak to this because I'm not. But you can, and Derek can coming up here in a minute. Mike and all these other guys. I can only imagine how much more difficult it is for you or anybody to sit behind a screen and try to call a game and not be in the atmosphere of that game and still try to be on cue with everything that you're doing, and B, most importantly, present the broadcast in an entertaining way.
Yeah, it's so there are a couple of things you have to do a little bit differently. You have to go just a touch slower, like a fraction of a second slower, because you're just a little bit behind and you don't want to say something. I mean, baseball will be challenging depending on the views, because if you're not sitting right behind the plate and some guy takes a hack and that ball goes high and far, you don't know if that thing is higher than it is far or farther than it is high.
That's exactly
so
right.
it's going to be, you'll see some pauses there as announcers try and get the feel for it and the camera's catching up. So it's not ideal. And nobody likes it. No play-by-play guy got into the business to do a game not from an arena. That's the best part, is being in the arena and talking to people and feeling the game. And that's not something you could do right now. It's frustrating.
Well, we can. We're in our own arena, 123 here on this Monday afternoon. Football played this weekend. How about the Dogs? Couldn't overcome a 28-7 deficit on the road at Mercer, Darren, and Mercer gets their first win of the fall/spring FCS schedule. 1-4 now. Citadel is 0-5. They were, though, within a touchdown late in the ball game, 35-28, and attempted an onside kick with a little bit over 2 minutes to go. And Mercer took it 45 yards to the house, and they were able to win the Bears 42-28, and a kick in the groin of sorts for the Citadel Bulldogs, who will host Chattanooga at 1 o'clock Saturday at Johnson-Haygood Stadium. That will be their first home game of the spring season. No public tickets are available. You had to buy season tickets. You have to be in the Corps. You have to be a family member or employee of the university or something like that. There are only select ways to get tickets. So if you don't have one, you're not going to be able to get one just by walking up and buying one at the ticket office down there at Johnson-Haygood. But tough one for Citadel football this weekend, still searching for their first win of the, as strange as it is to say, the 2020-2021 football season for them. Other state scores: VMI beat Furman this weekend. How about that, huh? Keydats 1-0. Furman drops to 1-1. Chattanooga over Wofford, so Chattanooga will come in with their first win to Charleston. 24-13, the win over the Terriers this weekend. And elsewhere in the SoCon, Western falls to Samford big, 55-27. Western continues to struggle, 0-5.
Did you see what Samford's athletic director said? When was this? February, yesterday.
No.
This is his tweet. I retweeted it from our account. Incomplete. His name, Martin Newton, great guy. Met him many, many times. great lineage as well, but we'll skip that part right now. In complete transparency, I wasn't in favor of spring football. However, after yesterday, I'm beginning to think FCS should take a deeper look at a permanent move to spring. What say you? That from the athletic director of Samford.
Well, I mean, I'm, I don't know what type of guy he is.
He's a good guy.
I mean, like you said, he's a good guy, and so that's not part of my equation here. But if he asked me, what do I think? I would ask him, how many games have you had on TV?
Right.
And how much has anybody? And and here's the thing. Well, having this conversation again, if there has been more effort than what the public knows about, or people like me and you who talk about it, to try to bring a little bit more of a spotlight to and platform to FCS football this spring, then we need to know about it. And we just need to know that it wasn't possible for whatever reasons they've laid out that makes it impossible to do. But again, I mean, I think you side with what I say here, and I know we talked to Gene about it last week. I think that it's been a miserable failure on behalf of the league commissioners, on behalf of television, on behalf of all of them. I think we all had this theory maybe that back in, when was this, August, when everything started getting pushed forward, okay, just what he just said. Well, maybe that'll kind of crack the door open to a bright future for spring football at the FCS level. It'll have a platform, and no one even knows. I mean, we've been on the air since noon, and I get it. It's not the biggest news of the weekend. The Clemson-Carolina baseball game is in this state, but this is a very proud football state, and it was an hour and 20 minutes in until it was the next important thing for us to get to. Nobody has provided literally any information or any intrigue into this spring football season, at least in my opinion.
No, and none whatsoever. And it's tough. A lot of these FCS athletic departments and sports information departments are significantly smaller than big programs, Power 5 programs, like significantly. You got 1, 2, 3 people sometimes in those offices. So it's not easy to cover all of the sports that they're now having to cover with the addition of football in there. I get that. But yeah, there's got to be some coverage. My sense is there weren't too many conversations with the networks. My sense is there were some quick conversations. Hey, can we make something happen? And probably not. And that's my sense. But I don't know that completely. But I can tell you absolutely truthfully that they're not on television, and it's a complete afterthought. Yeah. In the middle of March Madness.
Oh, it's not even. Yeah,
so,
you're right.
Citadel's however many miles from right here. I knew they lost. I knew they had mounted a comeback.
There's just not much out there.
I'm paying attention to basketball. I'm paying attention to golf.
Yeah, I mean, as strange as it is to say, when all the big boys are playing in the fall, we have a better reading of the pulse of FCS football when the big boys are playing. I think there's much more. There has been much more attention given to the FCS in the fall than the spring's been a disaster. It's been a flop. And yeah, you're right. We're about to get into March, and it's going to fall even further down. And then we're going to get into April, and we're going to get into May. And I can only speak from the southern standpoint of things around here. But in South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, or Mississippi, Alabama, the southern area of the country, that's prime college baseball time, and you got Major League Baseball getting going. And I don't know that it's going to gain any visibility and any more traction during that period either. Based on the sports fans that I know, I just don't see it. Now, it might, you know what? They might find a way to pick up some late games that pertain to the FCS playoffs, and that'll be great. But it'll all kind of be in the blink of an eye where we'll be going, damn, I didn't even know that they were playing.
I mean, what will generate a better audience and more interest? A spring game at Clemson, like the intra-squad spring game at Clemson.
That's not even
or an FCS
That's
game.
not even a question.
Exactly.
It's a spring game at Clemson.
Exactly.
Spring game at South Carolina. Spring game at Georgia.
They're all televised these days.
Yeah.
All of them.
There's no question about it. And it pains me to say that because that is not fair to the Citadel or Mercer or Furman or any of these other teams play. It's not fair to them at all.
Nope, but it's true.
But it is what it is. Real quick, one final FCS note, though, before we get to Derek Scott. How about this weekend? Southern Illinois walloped top-ranked North Dakota State. See, once again, anybody know about it? But you would have if they played that opening game in August on ESPN. 38-14. Now, keep in mind, North Dakota State doesn't have their star quarterback, right? He's off preparing for the draft. He's probably going to be the second or third quarterback taken here next month. But they lose 38-14 Saturday. That ended the Bison's 39-game winning streak. They're 2-1, 1-1 in the Missouri Valley Conference. They've won 3 straight FCS championships. They had not lost since November the 4th, 2017, and that was to a top 10 ranked South Dakota State team, the Jackrabbits, as a matter of fact. It was their worst defeat. Check it's 2021. This was the worst defeat for North Dakota State football since they lost to Cal Poly 37-6 in 2005. 17 seasons ago for North Dakota State. Unbelievable note at the FCS football level.
The dude who beat him, the quarterback for Southern, is like 5'9", 180 or something like that.
Ah, it's amazing. Amazing. All right, it is time to run. When we return to Columbia, South Carolina, we go. The Magic was in Founders Park yesterday. Derek Scott, he had the call. He also had the call of Carolina's 21-point victory over Georgia on Saturday afternoon in Athens. He's going to recap it all right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by Mcfadden Pest Control.
Peace and love at Stokes Meade Dub.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. To the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Meade Dub.
$16.66 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag includes $4.99.50 administration fee subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clemens Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater.
You can hear me now?
Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck, Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clemens Ferry location. Plus, baseball, spring training, college baseball, spring football, it's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
1-2 pitch. There's a shot, and it is going to be over the head of the center fielder. The Gamecocks have won this game. They played shallow, and they got burned on Andrew Eister. And considering they had the shift on toward right center, he did go Eister alley to win this ball game.
Ball hit well, right center field. Eister has done it again. The Gamecocks walk off Clemson as Brady Allen crosses home plate, and a stream of garnet jerseys makes its way to second base to tackle Andrew Eister. You can put Spurs on a Gamecock win and a series win over Clemson. Andrew Eister does it again, Tommy, to Eister Allen.
There aren't many smoother than Derek Scott, the voice of Gamecock baseball and basketball, who had a hell of a weekend in calling Carolina's 21-point victory on the road against the Georgia Bulldogs on the hardwood Saturday, and then returning to the booth on Sunday at Founders Park, where Carolina was able to take the series over their arch rival Clemson Tigers with another Andrew Eister walk-off. And he's here to talk about all of it now, but he's not dancing and he doesn't have a broom just yet because they haven't gotten to game 3 of the series. What's up, man?
Hey, kudos for you
trying to con me into that, but no, we set the terms, and the terms were not reached. So sorry about your luck.
It was me. It was me who tried to con you into it by saying,
okay. All right, fair
if
enough.
we throw the basketball thing in, that is 3 games. Like,
Yes.
doesn't count.
Good point. Yeah, I had to send the text. That's all. Well, I don't know where to start. Let's start with baseball. Let's start with baseball. I mean, they're 6-0, and Eister is now a legend. Derek, at South Carolina, he's entered legendary status when it comes to this rivalry, and we all know that Wes Clark is in a different stratosphere. I mean, this is remarkable what this young man is doing. But I know you had to call the basketball game on Saturday, and Tommy, everybody just heard the call there. He had it up at Floor Field with Kip, and then you got it yesterday. But when you look at it now, and Carolina moves forward with this series victory, now ranked 14th in the country, Derek, what is your main takeaway from these 2 victories this weekend as the Gamecocks continue to try to climb that ladder in college baseball?
Well, I think whenever you are winning games that are up for grabs games in the late innings, there's certainly a suspicion that a team has something special about it to handle those circumstances as well as this bunch did, because both days there were plenty of opportunities to maybe blink. Let it get away from you, as there were either misplays or just some adversity along the way. The big home run in the 9th inning and then the 4 spot that Clemson put up yesterday, and then coming back with 2 more late. Plenty of opportunities where it could have really gone the other way, and yet this team found a way. It made some big plays when it had to, and people will remember the swings. But let's not forget for a moment the top half of that inning. The play that was made at second base and creating that force out, that was just unbelievable play. And there were some moments along the way both days. I mean, I know you guys had Skylar on earlier, and he talked about the way that his closer responded after he gave up that home run, and that was certainly significant as well. And those are the things that I like as far as takeaways. Don't get into individual accomplishments because it's just one game. But when you talk about character plays and guys that rose to the occasion, I really think that was something that's a great takeaway from these 2 games.
Derek, and I'm glad, that's a poor job on my part. We've got an hour and 38 minutes around here, and I didn't mention that play at second. That was a phenomenal play. And we were watching the game, and again, to add some context to this, just so people don't think that I'm getting too high in my britches over a ground ball to second here. And I'm watching that game yesterday with some guys, these names quite well, Mike Sisko, Neil Giesler, and Justin Smoke, and all of their jaws dropped when he made it, because not only did he spin, there wasn't a plant or anything. It was one and done, and it was a dime to second. That was as good of a play as you can make it second.
Oh, it really was. And the ironic part about that was, he tried to make the same play a couple innings earlier, and it was one of those situations where the ball hit his glove, but he didn't secure it, and it was because he was trying to start that motion of flipping his body over the opposite way there too. And in the moment, I was thinking, boy, Braylon, I don't know if that was the smart play. Maybe you just secure it and get the out at first. But when you see him make the play the second time, you understand why he had the confidence to think he could have done it the first time. But it was an unbelievable play to have all of your momentum going towards the foul line, going towards really the bullpen, or not the bullpen, but the tarp, for folks who can't visualize where he was, and to make a pickup at full extension, to be 6'4", and to go full extension, make that pickup, and then somehow throw it directly behind where you were facing and throw a perfect strike to George. It was an unbelievable play by Braylon Wimmer. And combine that with the home run he hit, and the bunt single he had. He was a huge factor in this game that obviously gets lost in the performances of Eister and Clark at in the heart of the order.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a wonderful point. I mean, here's Clark, who's hitting 636 on the year with 8 home runs and 17 RBI. Eister's hitting a shade under 400, and he's got the 2 walk-offs this weekend, and they're the talk of the lineup. And there's Wimmer. He's at 467, Derek. through 6 games, he's hit 3 home runs. He's playing, pretty elite defense out there, and he has set the tone you mentioned. And they bunted a lot this weekend, Derek. They bunted a lot. Is that something you've talked to Mark about? I know in the past, this hasn't necessarily been a team that's been capable of successfully laying down a bunch of them. I know that they had I think maybe I think it might have been Noah Myers had a pretty poor opportunity or a pretty poor bat the other night when he bunted 1 foul with 2 strikes on him. But outside of that, they were getting them down. They've kind of brought that back into this lineup a little bit.
Well, I think the thing you have to realize is with Wimmer and with Myers, the speed is so elite that they are being encouraged to try and bunt. I don't know if I'd say a specific amount, like once per game or whatever, but I definitely think that is something they want both of those guys to really keep in the front of their minds. And then a guy, Khalil, they have such confidence in George's ability to get a sacrifice bunt down that when the opportunity calls for it, there will be no hesitation in asking him to do that. So those are 3 guys that I expect to see bunts from in different capacities pretty regularly. And I mean, for instance, the bunt Wimmer had yesterday, we were talking about on the air. He had just hit a home run in his previous at-bat on the first pitch of the at-bat. They bring in Clark, who's a left-hander, so he's going to fall off the mound to the third base side. Having hit a home run on the first pitch in his previous at-bat, they're not going to throw him anything over the plate. So he's thinking, okay, I've got a guy who's going to fall away to the third base side. I'm guessing they're pitching me away here, see if I'll chase something out of the zone since I was so aggressive in my last at-bat. And he got just the perfect opportunity to push a bunt up the first baseline. And the minute that ball was on the ground, it was game over. There was no way the first baseman could play the ball and get to the bag or get to the tag on him. So that was just so well done. And, I give Clemson similar credit. They had a great sacrifice late in the game where it occurred to me about the time that the pitcher was coming set that, oh, crap, this is a great opportunity for a bunt because South Carolina had just brought Peters in. It was his first pitch. The guy at the plate's a middle inning defensive replacement who's a true freshman who had no ABs prior to yesterday, and it worked for them too. So there are moments that, the scenario just is too obvious to not take advantage of it if you're confident in your abilities. And there are a few guys there that I think the coaching staff felt good about, and Wimmer certainly at the front of that list.
The voice of Gamecock hoops and baseball, Derek Scott, 142 on this Monday afternoon. Derek, we've watched a couple of tough years in Columbia. Obviously, 2019, they did take a series from Clemson, but then the SEC certainly was a struggle. They dropped some midweek games, and then last year, I don't put a lot of emphasis on anything that happened last year. That year got cut short. I mean, Derek, you probably had these conversations many more times than I did, certainly. But I remember talking to Skylar before the year even started in 2020, and he said, "Look, this is a team that we hope will kind of hit its stride in April." We got to work through some kinks around here and figure out what we've got, but we hope to kind of hit our stride. And then the year got cut short. Nobody really got a chance to see what they could do with that club. But this one seems different. We all know it's the most talented team that Mark has had. We can see that certainly. But the team itself, you're around them. You see them day in and day out. They're having fun again in a Gamecock baseball uniform. I know the fun is in the winning. We all get that. But because they're having fun and they're staying lighthearted and staying loose, and I think they're confident in their ability, Derek, it appears that is what is leading some of what we've seen early on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing Mark mentioned to me when I asked him Sunday morning about his thoughts on Saturday, which covered a wide array from umpiring to TrackMan to a lot of entertaining subjects. But the thing that he brought up about his team was how he was so encouraged by the fact that they just didn't blink at any point Saturday when you've got 21 strikeouts stacking up, 15 runners on base, you give up a home run in the 9th inning. At no point, he said they just never looked nervous about this. They just were out there having fun and playing and were confident that they were, going to be able to get the job done. And that is that's great to see because it's not right now a bunch of guys who have necessarily had that much success. I mean, the swagger that this team had in 2011 and 12, based on what they were in the process of accomplishing and had just accomplished, you understood why those guys carried themselves with that swagger and expect to win. Win anyway, as Ray used to say. Mm-hmm. I don't think this current group necessarily has those chops, but they certainly have that confidence. And that'll take you a long way, especially when you're playing this elite level competition that's just starting right now. And so that to me is what I really like so much about what we've seen over, just 2 weekends, but enough to feel good about the fact that what have we seen through 6 games? Well, you've won a couple of walk-offs against your arch rival where you didn't really seem to blink or sweat the details. You've had a midweek game where, the other team threw a veteran pitcher and you guys hung in there and eventually just mashed that squad and didn't leave it open to some sort of, okay, is there going to be an upset, a game where you get caught looking ahead to Clemson, and then handle themselves opening weekend too with a variety of contributors. So I just think the overall 6-game snapshot is awfully promising right now.
And to add some context to that, Derek, I think Clemson is really good. And Kier Meredith wasn't in there this weekend. I think we all agree he might be the best player on that team. I don't know, but we'll see if he gets healthy. Monty mentioned to us on Friday there was a sliver of a chance that he could possibly get in there for an AB on Sunday, which obviously we didn't see him this weekend, but they expect him hopefully to be able to ready to go this coming weekend. They open ACC play, the Tigers do. But hey, Derek, they're good. I know this was the rivalry and everybody's focused on that. This Clemson team is going to win a lot of games, and they're really talented, and they're also pretty young in a couple of spots there. And I think Carolina fans are going to be able to look back in the next couple of months and realize not only did you beat your rival and take the series in the first 2 games, even though that third one's still down the road, they beat a really good team. This team isn't going anywhere.
I think the point you made about South Carolina last year before being shut down and being a team that was looking towards the second half of the season to really see what they were capable of, I think that's very possible for Clemson this year because they lost so much in terms of starting pitching from last year. I think they've got the pieces there, but Monty's going to have to figure out how they fit together. And as you said, Kier Meredith's a huge piece of their offense. So not having him, they rolled out 3 guys out of the bullpen late yesterday that are all from other places as far as, programs. One from Furman, one from Wofford, one from Newberry. All 3 of those guys I think can absolutely contribute, but it's going to take Andrew C. and Monty some time to figure out how it all comes together. So no, I definitely think that's a Clemson team that could very easily start, trending upwards maybe later in the season and be playing some great baseball towards the end. And at that point, that's how the value of a series win like this really can take on added value beyond just the rivalry, who's got the bragging rights, so forth.
All right, Derek. So we're through that, and the common fan is now focused way too far in the future on Texas. But we know you're not, and we know this team isn't. We talked to Skylar about it earlier. This is a really interesting week, because you go to Rock Hill tomorrow to take on Winthrop, and I know they already beat Winthrop earlier this year, but you gotta go on the road. This is their first true quote road test of the year because the Clemson game was canceled. I know they played at Floor Field, but it's their first true road test of the year. And then you got Mercer coming in, and Mercer is in the middle of a 4-game losing streak right now, but that's not representative of that program. They're really, really, really good year in and year out. So it's one of those weeks where the name on the front of the jersey isn't Clemson or Texas or Vanderbilt or Florida. It's not going to be some eye-popping college baseball powerhouse name, but these are teams that are very, very capable of beating you. And so what are you focused on for this program this week and trying to capitalize on the hot start?
Well, I think you just rely on your starting pitching to give you quality outings again and set the tone early. And for Brandon Jordan, that means working on, your control, trying to figure out why he's had some wildness issues these first 2 starts, and then getting Julian Bosnick back into a starter's role next weekend. I think those are 2 key things to focus on. And then, obviously what we don't know yet is what does Mercer look like in terms of the details. I think as a program, it's a very real good quality program, but the pieces, what's it all about for them? I certainly haven't turned the page in that direction, and so I can't tell you anything really about them here on a Monday afternoon, but I know I'm looking forward to it and digging in a little deeper between now and then after we get through basketball and baseball tomorrow and figuring out what the Bears are all about. But yeah, I think anytime you catch somebody who's one of the better teams in their league and they get to throw their best arms That's the difference. You know, when you play Winthrop on Tuesday, Winthrop's got a couple starting pitchers they really like, but you're not going to see them on Tuesday. Mercer gets to bring their weekend rotation out. And if they've got veterans, if they've got four-year guys there, you know, you've got to think they're going to see this as a huge opportunity to prove what they're worth.
Derek Scott 150 here on a Monday afternoon. Gosh, it's Monday, guys. We got 4 more days to go before the weekend. All right, Derek, want to slide over to the hardwood. I can make your life really simple if someone would put me in charge of scheduling for Carolina basketball, because I would put Georgia on that schedule about 20 times a year. Carolina's beating them now 10 straight. You know, and obviously they looked fantastic. They did. And sometimes you just have a team's number, and that certainly seems to be the case here. But, you know, 7th wasn't in there this weekend. A lot of guys, I mean, Trey Hannibal played really well. What'd you see in that ball game? By the way, cool photo from Skip Harlick of you and Casey and Williams-Brice calling that. I love that shot.
It's different up there. But, boy, what a gorgeous day it was to be sitting at, you know, up top and doing a game there. And we're kind of enjoying that part of it, as crazy as it sounds. There's certainly some hangups to it, but it's, you know, make the best of your situation. We're having some fun up there on a gorgeous Saturday like that, especially. Yeah. One thing first, the common thread in those 10 wins. You know what it is?
Oh gosh,
defense.
What?
Me. I'm 10-0 against Georgia. Demetra and I have gone back and forth, and he told me how pleased he was that on the day that his current school beat his alma mater, and then his former school defeated, you know, the Dogs, and how happy he was. And I told him, I said, well, you know, since you left town, we haven't lost to him, right? And so anyway, me and Bruce Shingler continually remind Frank that the two of us are undefeated against the Dogs. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that J.J. Frazier finished his eligibility right before we took over. So,
oh, that's right. That's right. God, he was a killer.
Yeah, exactly. But no, as far as takeaways from that game, I mean, like you said, sometimes you just got to say matchups are matchups, man. And you match up well with some teams. You don't match up well with other teams. It happens all over college basketball. Watching Villanova get just smoked by Butler yesterday, and then reading after the fact how bad Villanova's been at Hinkle Fieldhouse since Butler joined the Big East, that there's nothing about that can make sense. Beating anybody 10 straight times doesn't make sense. And for South Carolina to be doing it to Georgia, it's unbelievable. And to play the 2 games they played this year against Georgia, I mean, sometimes I really do think a little bit has to be given credit to the fact that Chuck Martin was on Tom Crean's staff at Indiana for the number of years he was, knows Crean very, very well, and just always seems like Gamecocks come up with something in the scouting report that really catches Georgia off guard. The first game, if you remember, that's when they had just transitioned the defense from Frank's typical defense to that more of a pack line defense. And that, you know, they're calling it the Cuban pack line now. And so then we come back out this week. Georgia breaks the huddle, comes out to the center jump circle, and looks up and goes, who is this monster in the jump circle? Trayvon Minot gets the start and establishes a low post presence immediately, scores 6 points by the first timeout, forced Crean to burn a timeout, 2.5 minutes in? And it just really caught them by surprise that the Gamecocks had a true low post back to the basket offensive presence. And then Frank went zone and basically stayed in it. And it really caused havoc for Georgia. And it's just sometimes you just got to look around and go, boy, that's just crazy sometimes how you'll see trends like that. Same thing with Tennessee losing to Auburn, even though Auburn didn't have Sharif Cooper. No one should lose to Auburn without Sharif Cooper. And yet Tennessee, it was just the continuation of their struggles against Auburn and their former coach. They've had fits beating Bruce Pearl. It is. Sometimes it's just matchups. And I don't want to put too much into the game or take too much away from it. But, boy, it was desperately needed for South Carolina to have a good day for their own mental welfare and also to take something positive and hopefully some renewed energy in practice that comes from winning and this quick turnaround to get ready for the hottest team in the league tomorrow night.
Yeah, Arkansas now ranked 12th in the latest poll. And then, of course, they've got the makeup game with Kentucky coming up on Saturday as well, and Lexington on ESPN. And Kentucky's played better of late. But I will ask you this. I mean, how about Couisnard? So he leads the He leads the game with 23 points. He's 50% from the floor and beyond the arc, 4 of 8 from back there. You know, was that a game? You watched him play every second of his career at South Carolina. They got to have him. They've got to. He doesn't have to score 23 every game, but he can't be 2 of 11, 1 of 14 shooting, all these wacky numbers that he was throwing up prior weeks to Saturday. Is that enough for him to get him going down the stretch where they could have a chance to knock off one of these teams playing well like the Hogs or the Wildcats?
I mean, you never know. You have to wait and see because he played really well the first game against Georgia too. So he also has had 2 really good games against the Bulldogs. Again, maybe it's a matchup thing. But either way, it's got to help his confidence. And if he comes into tomorrow night feeling better about himself, you're right. I mean, it makes it a lot easier when there's not so much pressure on A.J. Lawson to have to perform. I mean, at halftime, A.J.'s scoreless and Keyshawn had 2 points, and South Carolina's up by 12. Nobody had that going on their bingo card. And it was really a treat to see how well Jermaine played because we've all watched him this year just struggle, and how hard it is for anybody who's had success on that level and has high expectations for their season, both from within and from without. I mean, coaches around the league voted him preseason second team all conference, and to have such a bad year, the way he was playing, not being able to make shots, whether it's 3s or 2s, he needed that in the worst way. And I would not begin to guess what that means for him next time out, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what it means once we get there tomorrow night.
All right, final question. About 2 minutes left with you here, Derek. This morning, Frank has been peppered with questions of what's wrong and are you disappointed in this, that, and the other. And, of course, he was asked again this morning, are you disappointed in the season? He said no. He said no. Did you hear those comments, and what did you make of them?
I was not on the press conference. The day job wouldn't allow it, but I was not surprised to hear him say that because Frank's going to protect his kids as best he can, and he, if anybody's going to be hard on them, it's going to be him in the privacy of practice and in games. But he's not going to stand by during media sessions or anywhere the public can have that chance to weigh in and not fight for his guys. And I think in this instance, he just wants to remind people, hey, think about everything we've been up against this year. And let's not lose sight of that. And I'm not about, if you're speaking in your Frank voice, I'm not about to let anyone just dismiss what these guys have been through and not take it into account when they're evaluating what this, quote, season has been all about.
That's a great point. And hopefully they can continue what they started on Saturday in Athens. They do have Arkansas. So how's this work tomorrow? You'll call the basketball game. Who's got the baseball game? How can people listen to both of them?
Tommy and Brad will be doing the baseball game. Brad Muller filling in for me. They'll be up there in Winthrop. And if the best thing I can tell you is download the Gamecock app if you don't have it. Right. If you listen to JB and Goldwater on your phone on the app, you can do the same thing with the Gamecocks, and that way you can find any of our broadcasts on the app at the same time. So maybe if you've got basketball going on the radio, because the basketball broadcast takes precedence, SEC conference game certainly, and baseball will be something you can listen to on the app. I think that's the best suggestion I could give everybody for how to juggle the two of them at the same time.
Well, there is some momentum right now, Derek. It's up to you and only you,
all on you
to keep this going tomorrow night and right on through the rest of the week, okay?
Sounds good. And I guess we'll see each other on May 12th, and whether or not I have a broom with me or not is the big question.
Well, I hope we don't wait until May 12th.
Well, no, but I'm just that date. I guess I better go ahead and plug it into the calendar.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Darren,
you got 2.5 months to buy that broom, and just get it.
Darren's he's not giving up on this thing. So yeah, you might want to be prepared for that. Certainly.
I'd be happy to be have to take that into account.
That would be absolutely you and a lot of others out there. There's no question. Hey, buddy, thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys, have a great week.
Yes, sir. You too. Derek Scott, voice of the Gamecocks. That's it. We're done. We're all out of time. By the way, it is national. This is real. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
It is national Dadgum That's Good Day.
Someone in the South made that.
Yeah, man. I love it.
Dadgum That's Good.
But in addition, you could use that for this because it is also National Peanut Butter Lovers Day.
Yeah. Dadgum, that's good.
Dadgum, that is good. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what a lot of people are saying after the weekend for Carolina baseball.
Yeah.
Thanks to Derek Scott, Wes Mitchell, and Skylar Meade for joining us today. Thanks to all of you always for joining us. Thanks to Darren.
Thank you.
And that's it. I don't have anybody else to thank. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is my daughter's 2-year-old birthday.
Today is my wife's 2-year-old birthday as well.
Your wife?
Yeah, it's her birthday.
2?
She's not 2.
Oh, I hope not. See ya.